Welcome to the Twin Cities Bicycle Club Bike University. My name is Edward Ero and I am the coordinator for Bike U. Tonight we will be hearing our own Scott Larson, Mike Beadles, and John Benda on winter bicycling and how relevant can this be with the cold and snow that we've been having already here in Minnesota. Before we begin, however, I have a few announcements. This is the first session of Bike U for the 2023 ride year. If you've not listened to our previous sessions from 2022 on the environment, TCBC history, equity in bicycling, electric bikes, and on the Greenway, please go to the Bike U page off the main TCBC website. There is a link with each session on the TCBC YouTube channel, where each of the sessions have their recordings. The recording of this session tonight will also be up after the conclusion of the meeting, and if I have time to edit and post to YouTube, hopefully tonight or tomorrow. I want to thank our TCBC U Council of Regents, which includes John Benda, Mike Beadles, Shelby Miller, and Tim Rand for their work. If anyone else would like to join the council, please contact me as we welcome others to participate. During the session tonight, please keep your audio muted, but do keep your video on so that we can show who is in the attendance tonight. There will be a question and answer session after all the presentations, but during the meeting, you can enter questions in the Zoom chat function if you so desire. I will be monitoring those questions and make sure they get answered during the Q&A session. Please do not interrupt the speakers to ask questions during the presentations, however. At this time, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Scott Larson, who will talk about the types of bicycles used, tires, use of studs, tire pressure, tubeless tires, fenders, how things change with snow or no snow, and I'm sure lots of other things. Scott will first provide some background on himself and how many years he has been a member of TCBC and the roles he has or has had in the club. So I'll turn it over to you, Scott.
I'm Scott Larson. I joined the club somewhere in the late 1990s through Ironman, but I didn't really ride with the club. I had this membership that was just riding along for a year or two through Ironman. It was about this time of year in the year 2000 when I decided that I want to start riding, and I looked outside and it looked a little bit like this. And I started thinking about riding, and I started looking at the TCBC schedule, and I finally went on my first TCBC. The first TCBC ride I ever did was on January 6th, 2000. And Brian Ritchie was leading it, and I don't know, it was probably Think Spring or something like that. I don't know, it was somewhere up here in the Rosedale area. I don't remember what the route was. But from that point on, I rode every weekend day that they had a ride in the schedule. And back in the year 2000 and the first 2000 to 2005, I rode pretty much every Saturday and Sunday during the winter. Mike Beadles was there sometimes, but it was mostly me, and Brian Ritchie was the leader. Christine Polzer was a leader. Mike Mazilski was on the rides. A handful of other people were on the rides, and 3, 4, 5 of us would ride just about every Saturday and Sunday together. Charles Breer, Jim Joy, that's sort of the core group that was riding every week. And then if it got nice out, other people would show up. And my roles in TCBC right now, my only role is I'm on the membership team. So I'm sort of working in the background with the membership database. I've played some different roles through the years. I was on the board of directors for a couple of years, somewhere in the early 2000s. I'm not sure when. But my role back then is I sort of, the mileage tracking different people were doing the mileage tracking, but I was the one that was always going in and doing QCs on the work and cleaning it up at the end of the year so that we could get the reports out. And I was also working with the membership, taking the membership report that people were making and making sure that the membership report sort of lined up with the mileage back then. Back then, the mileage was done in an Access database. A few different people have entered that mileage, and the membership was in an Excel spreadsheet. And it's amazing how far things have come since then. And the other thing that was in existence back then is the calendar was, you had to put your rides in 6 weeks in advance. So that's why we had a ride every Saturday and Sunday, because you didn't know what the weather was going to be like on Saturday and Sunday 6 weeks from now. So we just automatically scheduled rides for 6 weeks. So there was a ride every Saturday and Sunday all winter long. My topic is bicycles. It's funny that when I think about that, the bicycle I took on that first ride that I did on January 6th, to the year 2000 is still the bike I ride in the winter most of the time. It's an old Cannondale mountain bike. Mike Beadles has one of the one like this. I think it's gone probably now, but mine is still on the road. I ride it all winter long. I put studded tires on it. I don't really ride it anytime except in the winter, and it has studded tires. That's what I ride once the snow has fallen and the conditions sort of allow you to ride on the roads. Up until and that's sort of the winter bike that I've ridden a lot of the time. Through the 20 odd years that I've been riding regularly in the winter, there's been some little trends. There was 2 or 3 years ago where I was riding a single speed mountain bike. That was sort of a big thing. People were trying to get bikes that were simple. So basically just a chain and brakes, and that's all you had, and you couldn't shift it, so it never got in trouble. You never got in trouble with it. One of the problems that we used to have with the bikes more than we do now is the bottom bracket freezing up when it would get really cold, and then you couldn't pedal. I've not been noticing that in recent years. I can't say that I do any different maintenance than I ever did. I just haven't been having the problem that maybe the greases are better than they used to be. I ride my bike all winter. I do virtually no maintenance on it. I leave it outside the whole time so that it stays cold the whole time. And then in the spring, I come and spray it off, and I take it apart and I grease it all up, and I wait until next year and do it all again. Years when we don't have, another trend that we have that came in is, for a while I rode like a gravel bike with a front, just one studded tire on the front. I would put a studded tire on the front so I could steer, but but the rear tire I did not put a studded tire on. That was at a time when I was trying to ride faster in the winter, and riding with the groups. I needed all the speed I could get. I needed the fastest bike I could get, and that was a way I could do it. And by just having the front, it was easy to just switch out front wheels if it was nice enough and I didn't want to have studded tires on. I didn't have to switch the tire, just switch out the wheel. Nowadays, the last 5 years or so, I ride a gravel bike in the winter when the conditions are okay. As I've gotten older, my goal during winter riding is not to go fast. It's to basically just enjoy the weather and ride. So most of the time I'm just riding with studded tires nowadays in the winter, because I don't really want to fall that badly. I will say that the falling is not as bad in the winter as it is in the summer, because you just tip over. You go down so fast, you don't throw your hands out, you're just riding along, and then all of a sudden you're laying on your side and you just get up and start riding again. Pretty much all of the clothing I have has a hole on the hip where I've fallen on my hip. That's just the way it is. All of my tights have holes on both sides on the hips, and that's where I've fallen in the wintertime. I also have a fat bike, and I leave studded tires on that all the time. And that would be what I would be riding this week. If I would have had time to ride this week, I would have been out there having fun on my fat bike with studded tires. And that one I tend to take I don't like to ride my fat bike on the road very much. I don't want it to get all rusty. I don't want to have to do the big repairs in the spring. There's different philosophies on the bikes. Some people like to have some people, if you're bringing your bike in, you have to clean it. All that salt you're getting on your bike, it's just going to really wreak havoc on your bike, especially if your bike is it's getting the snow, then it's melting off, then you're getting snow melting off. That is really going to wreak havoc on your bike. I leave mine outside and it just stays frozen all the time. So it generally stays functioning all winter. As far as one thing that I do strongly recommend is that I do not think a person should be riding a road bike in the winter. And my biggest reason for that I don't care about you riding fast on your road bike, and I don't care how good the roads are. I don't care even if the roads are perfect. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is road bikes get more flat tires, and I can't change a road bike tire in the cold. I just can't do it. My hands are too cold. The tires are too tight. It just doesn't work. With all these other bikes, the tires are just more loose. If you get a flat, they're more likely to, they're bigger. They fall off the rims easier. They're easier to change. You actually have a chance to change them. So that's my belief. I'm never going to claim to be an expert, but I will say that I've ridden a lot in the winter. One other thing that I would say about my riding through the years is I haven't ridden quite as much outside the last few years, but I did have a 2-year stretch where I rode every day. I rode 700 and some days in a row. So, and it was all of those days were in Minnesota. So I was riding, I would get done with work and I would put lights on my bike and I would just go just go out the door and ride around for an hour or two every day. I just did that. When I was doing that, I think I was riding this Cannondale mountain bike that I have now, and that's what I did. I have always used tubed tires on my bikes. That's just my main reasoning for that is that I want to be able to change them if something happens, and I don't want to have to deal with the goo. I will say that my fat bike, which I don't tend to ride as far, is tubeless. But I'm also not as likely to get a flat tire riding my fat bike. Pretty much I only ride it on snowy days. I pretty much only ride it. I pretty much only ride it on sort of mountain bike kinds of the trails that are groomed for fat bikes. You're just not likely to get a flat tire doing that kind of stuff. So that's my thinking on that kind of thing. Another thing that I would say is we tend to, no matter what bike we're riding, we're tending to run with a little lower pressure than you would in the summertime. With studded tires, the lower the pressure, the more the rubber can sort of touch the road, and the studs can grab into the road or grab into the ice, and you're just going to have better traction. I'm not sure if I have a whole lot more. The main thing that I would recommend for people who want to ride in the winter is you can have a new bike, but don't have an expensive bike. Don't have a bike that you think is this isn't for your dream bike. That's not what you ride in the wintertime. What you're doing is you're out there having fun. You're enjoying the weather. There's nothing more peaceful than riding. For me, some of the favorite rides I ever do are in the evening on nights like this, when I ride, maybe even colder, the really cold nights when I ride around and I don't see anybody. I'm the only person riding. A couple of years ago, I rode around Lake Como, and then I went and rode around Lake Phelan. It was 10 or 15 below zero the whole time. And it was about this time, and I never saw another person walking. I never saw another person biking. It was so peaceful. It was very memorable. So I really do enjoy winter riding. I just don't do it quite as much as I would like sometimes. Does anybody have any questions, or do John or Mike want to have any other comments on bikes?
Yeah, we'll save all the questions to the end, but.
That's right.
Yeah, Mike or John.
Actually, one other thing that I was going to bring up is fenders. I forgot about fenders. When you're riding with people, if you're riding in groups in the winter, your people in your groups really would appreciate you having a rear fender on. They would appreciate that fender covering a lot of the wheel, because there's a lot of splatter coming up. If you're riding on your own, I don't really use a fender that much. I just use one of these things that clamps onto the back of your seat. And it's just, all it's doing is protecting my back, so my back doesn't get all wet and snowy. And I also put a bag on there so that can hold my whatever I want to haul around. Like I said, I'm not in a hurry when I'm out here riding in the winter. I'm just out here to have fun. The other thing about fenders that I will say that as great as they seem, and they are quite good, if you get fenders that are really close to your tire on a sticky snowy day, they will clog up and you might not be able to get the wheels around. There's always that danger of having your fenders too close to the wheels, and the snow is so sticky that everything will stick together, and you're going to spend your ride cleaning out your wheels so that you can spin them. I've spent whole winters riding with sort of those close fenders, and they work almost all the time, but there is an occasional day when they'll just clog up and you can't. It will sort of clog your bike up so that you can't ride. I think that's all of the topics I was going to cover on bikes. Did Mike or John have any comments?
I would agree what you said about the studded tires. I wouldn't think of not riding a bike without studded tires. Anytime it gets below freezing and there's been any kind of precipitation, takes too long to heal. But other than that, I can't think of anything else. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about bringing it in and out of the warmth to the cold. The freezing up that you mentioned. You just leave it outside. That's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that before. Otherwise, I pretty much agree with everything else you said. Yeah. I just have to try the what you said. Yeah.
Where do you stash it? Outside.
For me, I just mostly it's stashed in the garage, the unheated garage, or hidden away, or nowadays it can be stashed in my car. My car doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
My car, if it's not parked anywhere heated.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Scott. Now we'll move on. First, before I do that, if you've just joined, make sure you're on mute. Stay on mute until the Q&A session. I'd like to now introduce Mike Beadles, who will talk about the type of clothing, boots, gear, types of glove, use of goggles, even newspapers, fleece, use of layers, pogies, masks, and way to carry water to prevent freezing. Mike will also provide some background information on how many years in TCBC and the types of roles he's had. Over to you, Mike.
All right. Yeah, I've been around for decades. Most of the people here know me as a person who's been around for a while. And like Scott mentioned, we did winter rides, pretty consistently, in the past. And Saturdays, Sundays, I remember all those. Those were, and when Scott joined the club in winter in a January, was your first ride in January? It's like, who joins a bike club in January? And there he was, so, but a lot of people have joined in winter. And it's I've gotten to like winter riding as much as anything. If you're prepared for it, if you're ready for it, it's no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and share a screen here. My topic is like Edward said, gear. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen and just make sure that it comes up okay. All right. It says I'm screen sharing, and there I am in Elm Creek. This is just north of the, south of the mountain bike parking lot. The road that goes from the mountain bike parking lot up to the cemetery. I think it's called Goose Lake Road. It's got a gate in the middle of it to prevent cars from getting on it, but you can see that the park trucks drive on it. Anyways, Chuck, Ryan, and I were the only ones on the ride. This was about a 30-degree day, and so I held Chuck's bike while he took a picture of me with the two bikes. And I'm not going to do a trick ride and try to ride both bikes at the same time, but you can see two different kind of fat tire bikes there. So here we go. Are we ready to go? Well, we'll see. I just you see, I'm all ready here, and except for a couple of slides coming up here, I've got everything that I'm wearing. I'll detail everything that I'm wearing. Well, except for, personal stuff. And we'll go into there. Oh, how do we do this? Page down. There we go. So underneath that helmet is a fleece balaclava. And I believe that's how you spell it. A fleece is about, I don't know, 1/4 inch thick, and it absorbs sweat, kind of wicks it away. And it also keeps you warm at the same time. The face opening is big enough to stick your eyes and nose and mouth through, or there's even some that face masks where you can even cover your nose and mouth with, and so and goggles even, to cover your eyes, so there's nothing exposed. So, but this is a good starting layer. And on that day, the 30-degree day, this was good enough to wear without the face mask and goggles. So with that thicker balaclava, I can't wear my regular summer helmet. So I have a helmet that's extra sized, and I have a pretty big head already. So finding an extra size helmet was a challenge, but I found one and I attached a light to it. Visibility is another key. You have to be seen. You have to be, it's not for you to see. It's so you can be seen. It both, So this is an extra sized helmet that fits over the balaclava, over the face mask, over the goggles, everything. Johnny Pugh actually has one that is a ski helmet, and he can close the vents on it. This one, I can't close the vents on it, but he can actually close the vents on his or open them slightly. An actual ski helmet. Whoops. And it also holds the back of the goggle strap in place on his helmet. This one does not. It's just got a light attached to it, and it's extra large. Goggles, your eyes, yeah, they get cold. You want to, the tears freeze, your eyes freeze. So you want to protect, especially when it gets colder. I didn't have them on in the original picture, but when it gets colder, below 30, below 20, I'll have a pair of goggles, and I'll strap those on. The trick is to keep it from the nose from steaming up the inside of the goggles. So getting them fitted just right. And then I also wear corrective lenses too, and my corrective lenses fit behind these goggles. So Goggles are a very good idea to keep your eyes from freezing. Is that it? Okay. Yeah. The next thing I'll put on is a neck. I don't have that tall a neck, but there's a neck gaiter, and that just scrunches down in between your chin and your chest, and to keep your neck warm. Again, if it was 30 degrees, I wouldn't be wearing this, but if it's 20, 10, I would be wearing this. Colder, I would be wearing a neck gaiter. So that takes care of the head. So the head was, the balaclava, the helmet, the goggles, the face mask, the gaiter. So now we get to the core. The core, you want to dress in layers. So we have a wicking t-shirt here. So it wicks the sweat away. And this wicking t-shirt just happens to have a wind front on the front of it too. So it's a wicking t-shirt all the way around. And then the very front of it has a wind block fabric also on the other side of the wicking fabric. So that's the first layer. The second layer is just a fleece long sleeve jersey. And that, it'll absorb the sweat also from the wicking of the first layer. It'll absorb the sweat and hold it in there. Cotton is terrible. Do not wear cotton. You will freeze. So if you wear fleece, or if you wear a wicking material first and then a fleece lined jersey next, the sweat will get trapped in there. And even if you want to go like an extra step further, in between the wicking t-shirt and the long sleeve jersey, you can put newspaper, crumpled up newspaper in there. You can put newspaper like on your front, especially because that's where the wind's going to hit you. We create our wind chill, right? We create, even if there's not a wind chill out there, going 10 miles an hour, you're creating a 10-mile-an-hour wind chill. So the front, you can put crumpled up newspaper in front. When you get to a rest stop, you can throw that newspaper away and probably grab some free newspaper off of a Skyway News or something. I don't know what's even around anymore for newspapers, but and then redo that newspaper layer. And it's cheap, right? I mean, you can just use newspaper and that'll absorb the sweat, and you can just get rid of it at the rest stop, and then continue on after that with new newspaper, or no newspaper at all, whatever. But I'm just say I hardly ever use newspaper, but when it is really cold, I do. And then okay, so the wicking t-shirt, the long sleeve jersey, now the jacket. The jacket, okay, here's another part of the theme: be seen. So this was a lined jacket. You can see the kind of white lining in there. It's very fleece-like, and then the exterior is like that scuba diver material. That's if it did rain or snow, it just kind of slides off of it. It doesn't absorb into the front, and good zippers. So I put stuff in those zippers. My car keys, my wallet, my phone. I would put inside the zippers, and then they would stay in there. And I like that it's a full zip as well too. So if I did get warm, I could open this up and let some cool air in that way. So that takes care of the core. So wicking t-shirt, fleece jersey, and jacket, bright jacket. Now we get to the hands. Okay, there's a couple of things about hands. This is the lobster style glove. So this is like 20-year-old technology, and it's still good today. I still use them. But you can see that it's live long and prosper, right? I mean, so you can use the two fingers. Oh, here we are. You can use the two fingers to activate the brake levers and shifters, but it's still kind of clunky. And you can see on the thumb, there's actually terry material, so you can, kind of gross, but you can wipe your nose, with your thumbs, and your nose does run when you ride in the cold. So this is one way, but when it gets really cold, I ride with Pogies, bar mitts, or Pogies. There's two different names for it. If you ever heard the word Pogies, they're more like a down jacket. Pogies, they're made in Alaska. They're sold in the local bike shops. This is another brand called bar mitts, and these bar mitts are just like the scuba diver material, like the jacket. And so with these, I can even wear, just glove liners, or maybe even no gloves at all, depending on how cold it is. But But and then I have total control. It's hard to see in this picture, but I have total control over the brakes and the shifters and everything like that. And yeah, it's still a little awkward, you know, like when you come up to a stop sign and stuff, it's like, do I have to take my hands out? Well, sometimes you do, yeah. You know, that kind of stuff, you know, figuring that's just like, you know, learning how to clip in and out at first, you know, it's like, you kind of have to learn, you know, because your hands are kind of like inside these mitts, you know, so you have to kind of pay attention, especially, you know, in stop signs and emergency situations. And anyway, so maybe practice a little bit first, you know, before you go out on the busy, really busy areas. So that takes care of the core and the hands. So now we get to the legs. The legs. So after the regular shorts, bike shorts, I just wear regular bike shorts, and then I put on winter tights. This is the front of the winter tights. The front of the winter tights also have this scuba diver material on them, and you can see they flex in the knee, you know, so they're good for pedaling, right? So, and then they also zip up at the ankles. So they zip up tight. I don't know if you can see the zipper at the ankles really well or not, but they do zip up really tight. And I did take a picture of the back, but it's a little hard to tell. So this is more like a scuba diver material, and the back is more like an open weave, so that it lets the sweat out, you know, the perspiration out. And there you can see the zipper a little better. And also you can see the reflective strips, the 3M reflective strips are down by the legs. They say if you're gonna make something bright, make your feet and your legs bright, because when you see that pumping up and down, you know it's a bicyclist. And so with that, I also add a reflective band, at least on the left leg, you know, the traffic side. If it's cars, I wear a reflective band on the left side, and that's actually not reflecting very well, but it is a reflective band, and sometimes I wear it on both sides. So, oh, okay, so that's legs. So that's head, core, hands, and legs. So now we get to the feet. Yeah. So the three things that get the most cold are your face, your hands, and your toes. And it's like the extremities of the body, right? So you got to be most careful with those things. You can get frostbite. So you don't want to pack your socks real tight. You don't want to put on, you know, really thin little socks or a really thick sock and then pack it really tight into a shoe. You want it to be loose. I heard somebody describe it once as you don't want a tight leather jacket like a motorcycle rider. You want a down-filled loose pack jacket like a skier would wear. So that's kind of the theory here too, is like the looser the socks, the thicker the socks, and then wearing two pairs of socks. I always wear two pairs of socks. So I'll actually put the blue pair on inside and then put the black and green pair on the outside. And then I would put them in the boot. Now the boot, okay, so this is a specific brand of boot, 45 North. I think Lake also makes boots. These ones will clip in to pedals. So there's clips on the bottom. I don't have a picture of the clips, but these are the best boots that I found over the years. But they're only good probably to about 20 above, I think, because if it gets colder than that, I just wear snowmobile boots. So snowmobile boots, though, then I have to change the pedals because these will not clip into the pedals. But you can see how much more insulation. So the 45 North boots have quite a bit of insulation in there. You can kind of see inside the tongue there and stuff. But you can see here, it's got a lot of padding, a lot of insulation in the snowmobile boots. And then, yeah, so then I have to put on the flat pedals instead of the clip-on pedals. Some people swear by these. I don't. Toe warmers or hand warmers, they do help if they're exposed to the air. But if you're exposing it to the air, now you're losing the heat. So, you know, if they're packed in a shoe and they're packed real tight, they don't get warm. And they say, hey, these toe warmers are bad. No, they're not bad. They have to be exposed to the air. So, I mean, so I don't believe in toe warmers myself, but some people do. And also there are electric gloves and electric socks. I've seen those and those look pretty cool. And I'll ask Tony to kind of comment on those later, because I've seen Tony wear them. I've seen Marilou wear them. I've seen others wear them. And they look like they're pretty handy. So And then last but not least, water. Okay, every breath of air, you're expelling, what is it, 1/3 of a teaspoon of moisture. So you have to drink water when you ride. And with a Camelback, there is an option to get an insulated tube for the bladder. So I just removed the summer tube, excuse me, and I put this winter insulated tube on instead. But again, that's only good till about 20 degrees. Below that, I'll actually carry a water bottle instead, and then put a water bottle in a backpack. Another reason for the backpack is to carry any extra gear. Like if you decide, it is a little too warm today, I want to take off this this layer or whatever, and you can put it in your backpack and have it handy. Okay, that was it. Thank you. Now let's ride. And this photo was by Chuck Ryan. That was it.
Thanks, Mike. Scott or John, did you have any comments?
My only comments would be that one thing that I do different than Mike is I also sometimes ride with mittens, like big thick mittens. And if it's cold enough to be wearing mittens, I'm probably putting chemical things in there. And then I can pull my hands together and just grab onto the chemical warmers. And that warms my hands up quite a bit.
Yeah.
That allows me to ride a little more free than rather than putting my hands in the bar mitts or the Pogies. It depends on the type of bike you have, how handy the Pogies or bar mitts work. So sometimes I use the mittens and I just use the chemical warmers. And I'm frankly, I'm not going fast enough to have to shift, but I do need to be able to pull the brakes, and I can do that with mittens.
Yep.
The other thing that I do a little bit different than Mike is I'll oftentimes like wear a jersey as one of my layers and have it sort of close to my body. And so then I could put like a water bottle in my back pocket, or put something or just not a water bottle, but just something to hold water, put it in my back pocket and keep it from freezing because it's close enough to my body. I generally I don't really carry a water bottle when I'm riding on the bike because it's just going to get salty and yucky. I'm not going to want to drink out of it anyway. But if I'm going to stop, I can reach into my back pocket, pull out something with water in it and drink some water. But my general philosophy on drinking in the winter is I'm just going to ride 20 miles or whatever, an hour and a half, and then stop and get something to drink rather than trying to drink the whole time. Yeah, one last thing that I'm going to say is when you go out, when you're putting your clothing on to go riding in the winter, think about how you're going to ride that ride. If you're going to ride hard, don't put quite as much on. If you're gonna ride easy, put a lot on. I've gone on plenty of rides where I dressed as if I was going on a hard ride and I rode easy and I just froze. That's a bad formula.
Those are good points, Scott. And yeah, you're right. I didn't bring up the fingers. So gloves, anything where it spreads your fingers out, your fingers don't stay very warm by themselves. If they're together, like you said, in a mitten, or in the lobsters, it's like they're more likely to keep each other warm. So that's a really good point about that.
Yeah, I agree. I like the lobster mittens too, though, for the shifting and everything. That's what I use. But Scotty, today on today's ride, I was riding single track and sunfish, but it wasn't groomed or anything, and I was way overdressed. I mean, granted, we only averaged 4 miles per hour with only 2.5 PSI in my tires on the fatty, We were sliding and it was, I mean, I had a couple pretty good wipeouts, but it was a lot of fun. But I got a photo, I think here of me and Jay holding up the bikes in the deep snow that we were in. I don't know if I can share it off of I haven't done this in a while. I think I got the photo right. Oh, there it is. Can you guys see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's Jay. That's in Sunfish. And so we were breaking all fresh trail through that today.
Oh, that
So,
is deep snow.
yeah, and we rode from my house in Lake Elmo, and I thought we were gonna ride on trails that had been plowed. Well, they hadn't been plowed yet, so we're just busting through snow, and I had to drop my PSI, like I said, down to about 2.5, 3 to get any traction at all. So, but it was a lot of fun. Thought I'd share that.
That's impressive.
Now, how do I unshare? Let's see. I haven't done this stuff in a while here. Unshare.
Should be a stop share red
Right
button.
at the top in red.
Oh, I see it. There it is.
Yeah.
You know, once you're retired and I don't have to do Zoom meetings anymore, I forgot how to do all this.
I had just one thing. If you Google what to wear for winter biking, you can find charts like this. I don't know that this one's any better than others, but it just kind of breaks it down by, 70 to 80, 60 to 70, 50 to 60 degrees. Some suggestions of what to wear. And then, especially if it's like your first ride of the season, or if you haven't done much winter biking before, it's something to go by for starters. And then you can kind of learn what your own body, what works for your own body as you go on different rides.
Good.
So great. Thank you so much, Mike. Finally, I'd like to introduce John Benda, who will talk about trails and roads with snow or without, use of bus route or using bus routes when there is snow, the pedaling pastor and the University of Minnesota research. And he will also provide background and how many years he's been with the club and the roles he's had. Again, if everyone else could please stay on mute. Turn it over to you, John.
Okay, thanks. I believe I've been with the club since 2004-5. I have a medal here that Scott awarded me out of his trunk from that riding season, 708 miles. So I think that's about 17 years then. And I've been pretty active ever since then. I was a teacher, so I had time in the summers, and I didn't want to hang around here and let my wife come up with too long of a list of things for me to do. This year, I finally rode 2,000 miles with the club for the first time. I'm also on the board right now for 3 years, and I head our equity committee and help organize some things like getting groups to go to free bikes for kids and refurbished bikes. Let's see, we were at an open streets events. That's where I met Travis, that I'm going to introduce here in a minute. And let's see, we've done some bike rodeos. We did a bike giveaway at Edison High School. So yes, we are a biking club. That's largely what we do, but we do other stuff too. So I've invited Travis Norvell to be here. He's the pedaling pastor. He's a celebrity. Every morning he sends a report in to Kathy Wurzer on NPR. He gets out early and determines what the commuting routes are like and sends a little report in. And there's quite a few others that chime in on that too. So Travis, thanks for joining us. And I'll be inviting you to share your perspective here in just a bit. I'm a little out of practice. I haven't really ridden yet this winter. I fell on my mountain bike trying to keep up with my son and bruised some ribs. And then I had carpal tunnel surgery. Want to see my scar? It's pretty cool. I won't make you look at it. My wife says it's pretty gross. Might be another week or so before I get outside riding in the snow. Here's what I can tell you about my experiences. I do not have a fat tire bike. I'm kind of proud of that. I just put studded tires on my mountain bike. I think Scott talked about doing that at one point. And I'm able to ride most of the winter. In fact, let's see, I thought I was going to become a celebrity. Last January, somebody from the Minnesota Daily wanted to write an article about people that ride in the winter. I don't know if it was just a post somewhere. And so I offered to, share what I knew. And I was interviewed by Carly Quast was her name. If you go back in their archives at the Minnesota Daily, I'm part of an article on winter biking. So I thought I would become a celebrity because of that, but not one person mentioned that they, no one ever said to me, hey, I saw your name in this article. Anyway, I mainly, I do some trail riding, and I do some trail like on dirt trails, but I also do, when I can't ride on the dirt trails, since I don't have the real fat tires, I ride on a lot of asphalt trails. So I'll share one of my routes that you'll probably recognize. All right. Can you all see that? It's just the Minneapolis Lakes. Basically, I start in Highland Village area of St. Paul, and I ride the Hiawatha Trail, and I go by all the lakes. And let's see, over there by Lake Harriet, you can see I went a little past halfway, so I could see people jumping in the swimming hole over there. This was last January, I believe. And yeah, they do a nice job of plowing the trails. And so with my studded tires, it's a little bit icy, but really I've had very few falls. I'll just leave that one up for a bit. Some other places I ride, both sides of the river, east and west river road from Highland Park up to like St. Anthony Falls. I can also go from there past the university through the Dinkytown Greenway over to the Transit Way, to the University of Minnesota's Transit Way. Then there's the nice bike path along Como Avenue. I can go through Como Park. I can make my way along Lexington Avenue. There's a bike trail, a little bit bumpy there. The Griggs Bikeway, and get over to the Aid Mill Trail that was paved a few years ago, and make it back to Highland Park. Let's see, from where I live in Highland here, I can also go down along Shepherd Road, across the 35E bridge, and down the hill to go through Lilydale and through along that Big Rivers Trail down there. Lots of places to go where there are paved trails, and they all get plowed pretty well. What I really like to do more than that, though, is to ride in the woods, kind of like, especially what Scott was saying, it's very kind of Zen-like. It's not like I'm really pushing myself that hard. I'm just enjoying the winter. I have to wait, because I don't have a fat tire bike. I have to wait till it gets packed down well by the fat tire bikers and iced over a little bit. But there are plenty of opportunities to do that. So one of the places I will go, let's see. I switched it now to the river bottoms. Can you see that? Or do I have to stop and then reshare? I'm not sure. Can you see the river bottoms route here now?
Nope, I think you have to stop and reshare.
I have to stop and reshare. Okay, stop and reshare. Thank you. Here it is. All right. Ooh, what's that? Get out of there. Okay, can you see it now? Okay, and so I can cross the Ford Bridge, go through Minnehaha Park, and cross the Mendota Bridge here. And I can go down, I get to the river bottoms over by Mendota. And so that's because I can get there without driving at all. That's the stretch I ride the most often, from Mendota down to the Old Cedar Bridge. I've been past that as well. Unfortunately, let's see, this coming Saturday is Global Fat Tire Day. So there'll be lots of riders down there and a couple different organizations, Angry Catfish Bike Shop and Mork, that grooms the trails down on in the river bottoms. They'll be down there serving snacks and donuts and stuff. I don't think my hand's quite ready to do that, unfortunately, but that's really fun. You know, it's not like real mountain biking. It's just, you know, there aren't a lot of obstacles, but it's just kind of fun to be out enjoying the nature. And then I'll show you one more on my side of the river, which is probably what I ride the most. We've got one here. There we go. So now we're looking at again, from Highland Park, I can go down to Hidden Falls Park, which is just below the Ford Dam. And that connects up with Crosby Park. And I can go all the way to the 35E Bridge and beyond. There's even a little trail that goes up a hill. I can go up to the Summit Brewery. I've never stopped and had a beer halfway through my ride, but might want to do that sometime. So yeah, and that's the most convenient to me. I can get down there in 5 minutes. And kind of like Scott was saying earlier, I can go down there and go ride for an hour and a half and get really good exercise. So that's really fun. So those are the places I like to ride the most. And like I said, I have to be careful. If it gets too warm, it gets up close to 30 degrees. My tires are a little narrower than the fat tire riders, so I don't want to leave big ruts in the trails. And like today, I went for a hike down at Crosby, and I noticed that there's still quite a bit of snow. It's getting close, but I need it to be packed down a little bit better to ride my mountain bike across that. Well, I have a little bit more, but I wanted to give Travis a chance to talk about places he rides and tell us a little bit about himself.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah. You know, I ride, you know, every day, but I'm commuting mostly. On the weekends, I do some rides, fun rides, long rides around that. You know, I do ride a fat tire bike. You know, I didn't like them when I first got here. I thought they were showy. And I was walking with my daughter. She was 10 at the time, and we were at Lake Nokomis, and there was some drunk guy on a fat tire bike with cutoff jean shorts and a wife beater shirt, and he was cussing at everybody. And my thought was, everybody that rides a fat tire bike is a jackass, just like that guy. So I was a little reluctant to ride them. And then they had a winter bike expo down on the Greenway for a few years, and you know, we rode them all then, and I thought these things are a blast. So we gave in. I bought one, and you know, I love it. I have studded tires. I'm too lazy to change them, so you know, I put them on like, you know, first around Thanksgiving, and I don't take them off until probably June, just to my own laziness. But for that, you know, and I ride around all over the cities. So on trails, on roads. When I ride on the road, I really like to be on a bus route because I know it's going to be paved or at least plowed better than other places. So I try to ride on those. And if those aren't plowed, I just try to find on a secondary street because I know there's like a nice hard pack that I can ride on. And those seem to be the best options for me. You know, like yeah, they just came out with a new trail plow map for Minneapolis parks. I don't know if you saw that. So you can get some real-time information on when they're plowed.
I'm going to show that.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. It's still not, it's up and running, but it's not accurate. They said that the trails were plowed, and yesterday morning I went out at 6, and I was like, there hasn't been a plow on this yet. So it was, I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming.
Okay,
I just had a few notes I prepared, just,
go ahead.
you said about fenders. I would always always have a fender because you get so much crud up in your mouth, so find one of those fenders that, you don't have to be a full fender, but a little half one helps out. I mean, no one really likes to have that for lunch. The Pogies, I have Pogies. I love those. They're great for putting your lunch in, you can just put it in there and it'll be fairly warm by the time you get to, it's still better than your backpack. I like to put a layer of lotion on. That's my biggest prevention on my face. Just one little, it's amazing what a layer of lotion will help you on and it keeps your skin, nice and vibrant, and people will compliment you all winter long. So there's that. I don't have water on my bike, but I do have one of those, Nalgene, those extra large water bottle cages, and it always has hot chocolate in it on rides. Just, it's great to have a hot chocolate, in the middle of a ride. It'll do you wonders. Some people mix it with, other stuff. You can do whatever you want, but me, I'm just usually a straight hot chocolate. The other part would be about the riding on, John was showing his map. It did not show him going across the lakes. I find that to be the greatest part of winter biking. It's just riding across the lake. And the first time I did it, I was a little nervous. Last year I got a little too ambitious and went out before it was really ready. And, my bike front tire went in about 18 inches, but you can pop them out, but I wouldn't recommend,
I have written down part of Minnehaha Creek though.
Yeah, because the creek's even better, right? There's no creek this year, so it'll just be a dry run. But those are a lot of fun. I usually wear I get as many lights as I can on my bike. I can't see really well at night, even when I'm driving a car. So I probably have 2 or 3 bike lights on my bike, and I think it just helps out. You can see more things. You can put them in different directions, and lights are so cheap now that it's a little bit easier than it was maybe even just 5 years ago.
Riding on the lakes is awesome. I agree. It's,
Yeah.
especially where they plow them. It's really fun.
Yeah.
It is. It's a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as technical gear, my kids Nordic ski, and my youngest is a little bit bigger than me. So I last year just put on his gear and went out winter biking, and it was amazing. It was the greatest gear to ride I'd ever experienced. And then I talked to some friends in Norway, and they were like, well, that's all we do. We just wear our cross country gear when we ride our bikes. So I feel we're, so when I was talking with if you go to the cross country shops, I was at one this weekend, there's lots of secondhand stuff that they have in the back. You can get some pretty good deals on the cross country gear. The only thing is it's tight. Cross country gear doesn't have a lot of room in it. So if you're commuting or if you've got a suit on, it's not the best clothing to wear, but for Saturday ride, it was fantastic. Let's see what I have. One other thing. Oh, the warm up. Yeah. Another thing I would say is I put all my gear on in the mornings and I sit down and have a cup of coffee. And then so when I go out, everything's warm and I hate to be cold. So that way I just hop on the bike and, by the time I'm at the bottom of the hill, my body temperature is, if whatever heat was taken away, my body's back up to room temperature, and it's a great ride. Yeah.
Very good.
Those are my winter biking notes. Yeah.
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if anyone's on Twitter, you got to follow the pedaling pasture because
Yeah. Well, just type, the hashtag is MSP Cyclecast. And we have about anywhere from, on a good day, we'll have 20 people, giving reports from all over the cities. On a bad day, it's 3 or 4 of us. So, it works.
like that.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So thank you for mentioning the bus routes. I think Scott had brought that up to me earlier, that those are good choices when it snowed because they're maintained better, sometimes less busy. Mike had mentioned that he mostly sticks to the trails. Intersections can be a challenge after a snowfall because that's where the snow piles up. And then Mike also had some comments about ice. Well, try to avoid it, but don't make abrupt turns when you're on some ice. Dry pavement is the best. If it's white packed down snow, that's usually pretty reliable in terms of turning. But the black ice, that's the worst. So try to avoid that. But again, don't make any abrupt turns if you happen to be on it. Just try to go straight. Fence and building shadow areas melt the slowest. Beware of those areas. And then I had just a couple tools I was going to show you. One that Travis mentioned, but before I show that one, I put this on our Facebook page, but there was a U of M professor, Dr. Yingling Fan. She did a story relating commuting, not just by bike, but by other means also, to happiness. And she developed a transportation happiness map. That's very cool. So I'm going to share a couple things about that. First of all, this was the page, and I can put this link in the chat. And there's a kind of a cool little video there that about almost 4 minutes that just kind of describes her work about creating this. And then she made this map. Can you see that? With all the orange and okay. And so, and it's really easy to find this if you just Google transportation happiness map, and you can see under the modes, biking is one of the modes, but it's got all kinds of different ones. So I can pick biking. And the redder the route, the happier people are riding in that area. One of the happiest areas is along West River Road. And then you can pick the time of day or week that you want. And you can pick not just happy, you could pick, some other emotion, stressed. And it changes the whole map. So that's pretty cool to check out. So again, if you Google transportation happiness map. And then I think the one Travis is talking about is from Minneapolis Parks and Rec Board. And it's supposed to show after a snowfall how recently things have been, and it's only Minneapolis, it's not St. Paul, how recently things have been plowed. And what I thought was weird was it doesn't even show the Greenway, Midtown Greenway on here. I thought that was weird. I mean, it'll show it if you zoom in, but it doesn't show whether it's been plowed or not. So like you said, Travis, maybe they have some work to do. And this one, if you Google snow event requester, like it shows in the upper left here, snow event requester, you can pull that up pretty easily also. Let's see. Here's that link to the video about the U of M professor and her work on happiness. And that's what I had. Thanks again, Travis, for being here.
Scott or Mike, did you have anything to add to John's?
Just a couple real quick comments. Great job, John, Travis. That was great information. I really thought the lights that having multiple lights that Travis brought up really makes a lot of sense. The days are so short that a lot of lighting, a lot of reflecting are good ideas. So if you have any of that kind of stuff, wear it even more so at this time of year. Yep. Another thing that I was going to say is this week has been a great learning experience for people. If you what you can do is go outside and see where the plows went first. So snow emergency routes, not just bus routes, are going to be plowed. So some roads that aren't necessarily bus routes, but for whatever reason are snow emergency routes, will be nice routes to be riding on too. So they'll less likely to be iced up and 3 days worth of snow before they get plowed. So they'll be make for better roads during the winter. One other thing that I will caution about some of the winter routes is both like the Mendota Bridge and 35E bridge. Any bridges that have walkways that you're crossing on rather than the road, it's hard to say how good they're going to be in the winter time. They're usually good, but they're not always good. The plows come and they throw all the snow into those walkways, and they don't come along and plow those walkways sometimes. So both the Mendota Bridge and the 35E bridge are some of my least favorite to cross in the winter because I don't know for sure if they're going to be open. I'd rather cross something where I'm actually riding on the road. So
One of the worst ones is the Highway 5 bridge where the stairs are there.
yeah,
Bad enough that you have to walk up and down the stairs, but they don't plow it very readily.
so I'm just caution any bridges throughout the metro that where the way you cross them is on the walkway. It may not be great. I've crossed multiple bridges on the sidewalks in the winter that we thought would be fine, and they're just not. They make for a great workout, but it's not that much fun. So that's all the only comments I had, but great presentation, John, Travis.
Okay, well, let's move on to the Q&A session now. I saw some links and stuff on the chats, but I didn't see other questions. Just if you do ask a question, just unmute and then mute yourself, because when you're doing the recording, if you make any noise, it keeps flipping the recording around. So when you're not talking, please go on mute. So are there any questions? I have a couple I'll get things started here. John, you said you use your mountain bike in the winter. Is there a concern with the suspension, front or rear suspension system, stuff getting into that? Are you concerned about that?
I've never worried about it. I did have to have it serviced this summer, and it needed, I don't know if they totally replaced the fluid in there, but yeah, that I mean, I've had the bike for quite a while, and like Scott says, it's the only mountain bike I have, but it's nothing real special, let's say.
Yeah. And then I had one other one. I'll keep opening it up to others. I tend to not ride so much in the winter. I tend to ski, but the times that I have ridden, it seems like I'm always concerned. You know, I like what you mentioned about Norway, or that people just use ski wear, but it seems like when I do that, I'm too cold, and then I overdress sometimes, and I'm too hot. Any tips, any of you, on the types of I think Mike, you gave a really good presentation there, but it's, you are so much more exposed, where with skiing, you're using your upper body more. Your feet aren't just riding through air. So
I think what Mike said about what he learned from Johnny. Some of us are kind of Johnny disciples, that he brings a pack so he can take stuff off. And also, I think he frequently changes his socks partway through the winter ride. Bring a different pair of socks. Of course, he rides a lot farther than some of us would even think of riding, but not a bad idea.
okay, how about some others?
So this, sorry, what type of PSI do you normally have during the winter?
Yeah, regarding my fat bike, I run the fat bike probably about, and being, my weight, I would say I ride about 8 on my fat bike and about 30 on my mountain bike. So, you know, roughly half of what I would normally ride in the summer, or even less than that, especially like Diane mentioned earlier, you know, she had to lower it down to 2.5, you know, because the snow would just, you know, you couldn't ride on top of it. You would just cut through it. So it depends on where you're riding, I guess. And yeah, so. but
Softer
yeah,
is
I generally
better.
start there. Yeah.
Yeah, softer is better, you know. Yeah, less air. Even on my mountain bike, you know, I'll maybe, you know, my white one, my framed, that's not full suspension. That bike, you know, I'll probably ride just about 20 pounds in it. Is all in the winter, just so. And that bike, I don't have studs on on that, so I ride that one without studs. So, but it has enough cush when I'm using the 3-inch tires on it. So.
Yeah, I'm about 8 pounds, but realize by the end of the day, you're going to lose tire pressure just because of the weather. So, I mean, that much coldness, you're going to lose, you know, a pound or two, maybe even by the end of the day. So,
Yep.
And I'll just comment on, like Mike said, I'm running, like, if I'm just riding my mountain bike, not my fat bike, I'm probably riding with 20 pounds of pressure, not very much. I just want to have enough pressure so that I don't get a pinch flat.
Mhm.
But that's all the pressure I'm using. I'm not pumping it up very hard at all. It's not a very nice ride if it's hard.
I probably ride less, like Scott said, 20 to 25. If I'm riding in the woods, if I'm riding on a paved trail, I'll have it higher, you know, 30 to 35 probably.
Other questions?
Hey, Tony, I was going to ask you about your gloves. You have electric gloves, right? What brand
Yes,
are
I
they?
do.
Where'd you get them from?
I got them at Costco, and yeah, so far those gloves have been very pleasurable to wear because it's a heated glove, and they have 4 settings. So technically, I can ride in 4 hours during the winters comfortably. Yeah. I do have a Pogie too, so that's really helpful. Yeah.
And the batteries are rechargeable on those?
Yeah, it's a rechargeable battery, and they on sale at Costco for $100 a pair.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah.
So it's pretty good deal right now.
Does anybody use heated socks, or I've seen like on Amazon, like insole, heated insole type thing? Anybody try those yet? Okay. Any other questions?
I think Debbie had a question.
I don't have a question. It was more a comment, but I can hold off for a few minutes if you'd like.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say this has been extremely informative for me as I explore the idea of cycling in the winter. People are trying to talk me out of it, even cyclists. But anyway, so this has been helpful. I needed this information so I can just continue to research what I would need to do, what I would need to get, and to try it. I don't like the idea of cycling on ice. I mean, I'm going to be 65 years old and I'm still working and I have a lot of people in my life I'm accountable for. I just don't want to get hurt, you know? So I think I'm going to be more conservative and maybe try to cycle on packed snow. I love the idea of getting a fat tire bike. My grandkids would really think I'm cool if I got one. Anyway, so this has been rich information for me, and I really, really appreciate it. So that's my comment.
Great, thanks for saying that. Well, we'll close things up. I want to thank again all our speakers, and if Scott, Mike, and John, if you could stay on after I stop the recording, I just a few other things to go over. But I want to thank everybody for attending this session. The session recording will be up shortly after it's uploaded to our TCBC YouTube channel. The link will be in the notes on the BikeU webpage. And then I also like to ask the speakers, there was a lot of stuff I think that's in the chat, but I'm not sure if that gets saved. But if you send me the links to the different things and the pedaling pastor, if I have that, you know, the Twitter link, I can put that in the notes on the wrap up in the forum so that we have those too. So please send those, and you can send it to bikeu@biketcbc.org. Council of Regents is working on other sessions this season. So we're next session we're looking at is on fat biking actually. And then bicycle maintenance, ride with GPS. And that's going to be a session for all of us. I know they do stuff for the ride leaders, but for other folks that use it. And then night riding. And that's just a few things. We're exploring other items too. If you have ideas, just please write to me at bikeu@biketcbc.org, and I'll bring those up with the council. So thanks again for attending, and I hope to see you the next time too.